Excuse me. Oh, hi. Hello. So today's a new day. um, what am I doing today? Today, I think I'm entering. I don't know how long, and some would say maybe it's always been the case. Um, just like a little self era, like a self read era. A little talk about how life is unfolding for me and my thought process, kind of like an update on my journey. I feel like largely I'm moving from a cycle of destruction to creation. And the destruction was of old narratives that were selectively true, old challenges, roadblocks, barriers, old um, ways of thinking and ways of being that were not necessarily constructive to an expansive mindset, view of reality, and approach to life. And now it's more of that expanding, and being more present. So I made a community post yesterday talking about, after I finished the chalk, I made a community post talking about how I feel a shift in my guiding principles. And I tried to, well, some of those cards were important then. And then I tried to encapsulate, I guess, what more of my guiding principle feels like now. Um, so yeah. Let me take a sip of my nondescript but clearly carbonated clear beverage. This video is not sponsored by anybody, but Courage was the sponsor last time, wasn't it? Who's the sponsor today? We'll go Vitruvian. No, we'll go Revelation. I'm using the SKT Vitruvian Revelations. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull before and after the majors from the community post I made about my guiding principle. And then in the other deck, I'm going to pull before and after the minors. And that'll be another self read, of course. That's what I was like, it's that era. And then I'll kind of just ramble, chat, give my thoughts, feelings, opinions, emotions, I guess, throughout the. So at least this time, you get it up front. I don't know. It's been such an interesting few days. Such an interesting, completely unexpected, potentially life changing. And maybe that's why, too. It was I don't know. And then when I was leaving Planet Fitness yesterday, again, that was after I made the community post, I see what sun comes out or something like that. And I was like, oh, snap. And then Josh Summit. And it was a picture of a bridge and bridges being about transitions. And then I log on to my laptop later to send, I don't know, check email, send a resume, do whatever. And I noticed a lighthouse and I'm like, oh, where's that? And it's in Nova Scotia. And I was just in Maine, across the waters from Nova Scotia. And with the bridge from the waters and Maine is the place where Patricktown Road is, and where the shortcut, I guess, came up. And, you know, with what, because it was an opportunity that had the potential to transition into a greater opportunity. And who's to say that life won't conspire in a way to wrap me back to around to that greater um, opportunity later in life, to where this wouldn't have been a shortcut if I ultimately end up there anyway. But there are experiences that I want to have and a path that may be longer that I want to take. So, today's video is sponsored in part by the Ivory Shield. Also sponsored by the Gardener. Those are the sponsors of today's video. I'm surprised the STFU BTFU Money Business Queen popped up, but I guess maybe not. I drink a lot. Eve can confirm. I don't know if there's a drink in front of me, I can't help but like drink it. I don't know. I love liquids, you know what I mean? I don't have any alcohol though. It makes me a little sad, but every time I go to like, I don't know what I want to drink. Or this like, there's nothing, because even when I went to the store and I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't want to drink any of this, but I want to drink. Anyway, so ultimately I decided to not end up taking advantage of the opportunity that was randomly thrust upon me. Not that I'm not grateful for it, but like, and it's so interesting. I don't know if it's part of the retrogrades or a part of life. I'm gonna say it's a part of life. Sometimes I like leaving stuff up to just like life, you know. Um, but and it's interesting because I've said even on here, the part of me that has sacrificed what I sort of wanted in order for like someone else in whatever capacity. And because I was sort of recommended for this opportunity and because a capability within me was recognized, and like, I don't know, like, I guess I've learned in some ways. I feel like it's also a very, it's been a very cross referential point in time, if that makes sense. Cross referential in terms of like, I may have learned a lesson in one specific arena or in one way, or so I've learned several lessons in different ways. And I feel like what I've learned from those lessons I'm picking up on now. And it's also not picking up on now, I'm utilizing now. And it's also interesting because like sometimes I'll pick up on other people's synchronicities, or sometimes as people share their synchronicities with me, it gives those synchronicities meaning. And so it's kind of like their synchronicities. So maybe sometimes it makes me think of them, or it's like a reference point, a point of reference. Um, and so after I finished the chalk yesterday when I was driving home, and I've also been like loving driving lately. And by driving, I mean like down the street, but still, you know. I met a friend for lunch. I went on a walk, and then I went to go see my grandma. I don't think I realized that. Oh, snap. Excuse me. Let's see if I can focus. Yeah, as I was leaving, excuse me, I saw a synchronistic number that was someone else's synchronicity. And I was like, wow, okay. And like I said, every now and then it happens. Um, if someone will be like, I mean, kind of like anything, like, you know, when you learn a new word and now all of a sudden you're like hearing it all over the place, or if you're looking for a new vehicle, or if you recently got a new vehicle and all of a sudden you're seeing that vehicle all over the place. It's kind of sort of the same. Um, and I don't know. It's so there's the part of me that again is like it's honored and flattered that even when I didn't necessarily think that I was marketing or showing certain capabilities that I have, that I possess, that it was still perceived anyway. And maybe that speaks to presence or aura or ways that things are communicated about us beyond just actions and things that are immediately observable on the surface level. Because even as I was talking to the person, she was like, "Yeah, I could tell," and it was like, um, it was I don't know, it was weird, not weird in a bad way. Maybe it also speaks to I don't know what it speaks to. But the person was like, "Yeah, like I can just see you in this role. Like I can see you being really good at this just from the few conversations we've had together." And she was like, and when I talked to, someone else about it, they could like they saw it too. And again, there's the part of me that ever since I started working, it's like when I would feel like it's time to move on or time to it's like to go into an experience for the sake of having an experience is fine. But it's almost like when I was beginning to lose sight of the more that I wanted longer term, as I was beginning to settle and get comfortable, it would be it's like a little bit of agitation would be thrown into the mix just to get me mostly to remember that like the stop was not the destination, that where I was wasn't where I ultimately wanted to be. But excuse me, I would get like attached to people or whatever, and I wouldn't want them to be in dire straits, and so I would be like, oh well, like yeah, I would kind of sort of prefer this other thing, but I don't want to whatever. And through the past few years, I've had the opportunity to get over that. And so that's something else that came up that like as honored as I feel to be thought of or recommended for the opportunity, as flattered and semi perplexed as I am at the faith in my potential and capabilities to do well above um, what was sort of presented, I can't allow myself to be feel obligated to do something because of it. Because again, like that defies everything that I want right now. And it's interesting because again, remember sharing that like, excuse me, I remember sharing that I want to work. I wouldn't mind like living in the UK at least for a little bit. And I was like, even if I got to do this to live over there, like I wouldn't mind because I'd be living over there. But then at a certain point, it was like, yeah, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this anymore. Not even if it allows me the opportunity to experience living over there for a little bit. And I guess there's a part of the no longer limiting abundance and reality and possibility in terms of like, well, who says that I have to do something that I don't necessarily care for in order to be somewhere where I want to be? You know, no one has said that. And if that is my belief, and if I choose to seek opportunity, because like if I choose to seek opportunity with that lens or framework of mind, then that would be me affirming and validating and fulfilling that sort of self belief prophecy. Excuse me. Oh, this is my new guiding principle. The Seven of Cups, or Seven of Pentacles. It's a part of the new guiding principle. And that is honestly like that's the Empress slash Seven of Pentacles part of it, where it's like, first of all, it's positioning myself to receive things that I want. It's taking opportunities that make those pathways more likely. And I guess simultaneously, it's not taking on opportunities that are more of like the realm that I'm trying to exit or the realm that I'm exiting. Um, and then, so that's like the receiving sort of aligning part. And then the Emperor, Eight of Pentacles part of it is like reaching out, making those decisions, taking action, and getting more and more comfortable or accustomed to taking action. Taking actions that set me up to actively and passively receive more of what I'm wanting in this different direction. And so at first, I was there was legitimate excitement and the of an opportunity that came on 99, but it was a trap. And like it wasn't a trap because again, I don't feel like anything is bad, and I do really see myself loving working with and for who I would have been working with and for. Again, there were opportunities for growth that I would have loved that could have fast tracked me, that would have fast tracked me. Um, it would have been an environment that really sees and honors the potential and capability within me. But again, there's a lesson I learned in a much different way that just because something is good in all those ways doesn't necessarily mean that it's for me. And my path in particular isn't necessarily one of doing the easiest thing or doing the thing that comes with the least amount of challenge or is the least abrasive. Um, and that's something that really came in my like destructive period, where the Tower and the Ten of Swords were the rulers, or were more associated with the guiding principle then, because there were things that I had to work through, because there were things that I had to allow to fall, because there were situations that weren't ideal, that were unfavorable, that highlighted and illuminated to me things that I was capable of now that I wasn't necessarily before because I had gone through a major shift, like physically in my body. Um, and again, like I could recognize things as important opportunities, even if they felt like the more difficult path. And the more difficult the path before, the less resistance there is later. It's like if I would have chosen the pathways in which I felt the least challenged or in which things were like easier, then that resistance, a lot of that resistance would have remained. And again, like this is Saturn and Taurus. This sponsor I mean, both of these together, it's like it's a natural byproduct. One second. Hold up. Okay, we'll do it later. That was my number one fan. She's like, "Aren't you live?" I was like, "Yeah," with the camera muted. Anyway, um, let me try to remember where I was. Excuse me. It was a lesson that I learned in a different way that has applications in ways like this. And the first way that I learned to be as transparent as I feel comfortable being, I feel like so there was a situation that I was in which I could see and feel like gorgeous potential. And it was an opportunity to learn that just because something has gorgeous potential or just because of like an emotional investment or whatever, it's like even if everything were to go smoothly, and it didn't, it wasn't, but even if it were to have been, it doesn't necessarily mean for me that that's what's supposed to be. You know, how sometimes nothing can be wrong, how so many things can be right, but it still doesn't mean that that's the direction that I should go in or take my life in. And conversely, I experienced the opposite of that when I started working and stuff. And it was just because something is challenging or just because something is stimulating in a very aggressive way, in a way that's not, like pokey. Just because it's that doesn't mean that it's not the path and it's not the way. Um, and I know that everyone's guiding principles are different. But for me, again, when I was in those situations, my intuition discernment, it never felt like it was for me to leave. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm in here. I'm just figuring it out. But yeah, it is, I don't know, kind of sucky. Because I honestly feel like if this would have been my like first job or even my second job, if this had been one of my more introductory opportunities, it could have taken me on a completely different path that would have had more staying power, I guess. If it had happened in those ways earlier, I would have been more convinced to sort of stay in the arena that I've experienced. Just through again through the fact of like those capabilities and potentials within me being recognized, and then like putting in a concrete plan, like a timeline to make things happen. um like the work culture sounds amazing, like literally at like the change in the direction, the transition that's happening on the other side, and some of the new players and the ways that they approach things. Again, it's almost kind of tragic in a way that it is such a really nice fit, but it's not my path anymore, you know? It's not what I want. And yeah, I mean that's basically it. And the person was amazing. It was kind of sitting on me and weighing on me in a way that I was like, because again, I was legitimately like looking forward to it and excited, but I don't want to go like, and I was upfront about like what I'm thinking and considering. Um, and ultimately, this opportunity just it validates for me within me that like that's the path I want to go on. And even if it doesn't look exactly like how I think it's going to look, it doesn't matter. Like there will be other opportunities, or there will be other ways. There are many, many, many ways to get somewhere. A lot of times, depending on where we're going. And yeah, excuse me. So I sent an email saying that we had a follow up chat, and it's interesting. Like her, the HR hiring person I was interviewing with and talking to. Interesting, like the similarities between our paths, because she did something similar where she was sort of in an industry or in a role that sort of didn't really give her the flexibility in exploration. Because, and I'm the same, I want to explore. You know, I want to do several things. I'll share it in a second. Um, and how, you know, she went back to school, and how that to aid in a transition, and how everything played out for her. And it's like, I don't know, it was interesting. And I feel like that's, I don't know, I guess it's the way in which we mirror each other, and we find others that mirror us. But there are many people who are where they are that haven't had that sort of trajectory in their life of like, even like a that full circle moment sort of job opportunity. Because that's what the last one was for me. It was like it was a dream job, but in some ways very like silly. Like I got paid to eat. Or eating was a part of my job, and the stuff was good. Like my weight went up. I was doing decent too. And then I got on the scale before I started working, when I was like in the gym 5 6 days a week. And then I started working. I didn't get on the scale. And then after I stopped, I got on, and I was like, whoa, boom, boom. But also, I was eating a lot of sugar. So, hey, it was a good time. But even besides that, it's been a facility, excuse me, that has been so like central to my life since I was a child. Like you could smell it in the air. I could smell it in the air during recess, or like outside. And when I went to church on Sundays, I would smell it. Because again, it's like here's the school, here's the plan, and like here's the church. So it's almost this like little whatever. And again, it was just like it was almost more like full circle. And it was somewhere that I always said I would work. I was like, oh well, like we have this in my hometown. I could do this over the summer, or I could work here doing this or doing that. And I had my opportunity to work there. And again, it's because I worked there. It's almost like I got teased in a lot of ways. It's like I got teased on this like new path, this thing that I was wanting to do. And it was this like bridging opportunity, this opportunity that could lead to other opportunities that didn't work out. And again, because it didn't work out, it put me in a position to want to seek it more intentionally rather than peripherally, you know? So instead of like looking for something that gave me the opportunity to potentially expand in other arenas, after it didn't work out, it's like, well, why don't I just seek opportunities in those other arenas? Or why don't I transition, pivot myself in a direction that will more directly take me there rather than hoping for exposure and a lucky break or whatever. And maybe part of it was where I was within myself at that point. You know, how I thought of myself or what I thought I was, but kind of sort of partially what I thought I was worthy of, also kind of sort of partially because I am where I am. You kind of sort of take the opportunities that you can get, you know what I mean? Um, and so it was maybe a mixture of both, but now it's just like, yeah, no. And of course, like there have been things that I've been working on, ways that I've been growing within this past few years that also position me to move in the ways that I'm considering moving or am moving now. So, anyway, it feels like it would have been easier on me if the opportunity just like didn't fit and if it came from someone that like I didn't necessarily care for. Um, but that wasn't the case. And I'm grateful, I guess, that it was such a hard choice or decision to make because it makes me so clear and so certain that if I am, and again, it's like it wouldn't require much from me in some ways, but it was just like the more I thought about that being my life, the more I was just like that's time, energy, and effort that I could put into going where I want to go or place me more central to like being where I want to be. So yeah, and then her daughter, the HR manager's daughter, is also sort of seeking an industry that I shared with her that I'm interested in. And I was like, whoa. And I guess in a weird way, our paths may cross at some point. Our paths may cross someday. And that would be crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, your mom almost hired me for this other thing. So yeah. Anyway, I feel like that was a good way. I feel like I said a lot of what I wanted to say. I feel like I kind of sort of left open the reason when I was like, I don't want to read for people who are like new on their journey. I don't know if I necessarily fully expounded upon that or if I just kind of left it hanging. And it's no, I don't know, it's just, I felt like when I was at the start of my journey, it's like I was closer to a lot of things. I didn't have as much distance between those things and myself as I do now. And so it was now I feel like especially when it comes to something like a dark night of the soul, it's more so like trying to reach back or reconnect with an experience that I used to have. So it's like connecting to feelings that I used to feel, trying to recall or remember how it felt, and less like actively not just in it, but like I feel like my ability to recall has sort of like slipped, especially as I've gained so much appreciation for everything that I've been through, especially the challenging things. And I feel like it's not always entirely beneficial when you're going through something to have someone like, oh yeah, but like once you get through this, like you're gonna be so strong. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so yeah, in 5 years I'm gonna be amazing. How does that help me right now? Like, what does that do for me today? And I'm not necessarily one of those super quantum. Oh snap, blooming rose. Hey, how you doing? How you been? I'm not necessarily one of those like put yourself in the energy of the future or whatever. And it's because I'm like, okay, well, if my stomach is touching my back today, my full belly 3 weeks from now ain't gonna make me feel no fuller. So I'm glad to hear it. Happy belated half birthday. We just, we're in Virgo season, which means that Leo season just passed. And Leo is halfway around the sun from Aquarius. Ready for change? Yeah, same. Big on that. The contender with the discerning one. This is almost an energy is like it's almost choosing your battles, but it's more so like knowing when and where to invest, you know? When, where, and how to invest. So I will consult the community post. I believe I said my guiding principles. It was like the moon, the hanged man, and the tower as the majors, with like the ten of swords as the minor before. And now it's like Emperor, Empress, the Sun, seven, eight of Pentacles, and the Nine of Cups. I believe. I believe. But that also means it's time to like do stuff. And I was talking to my mom. She was like, okay, well, like, you're saying this is what you want to do, but when are you going to do anything? And I'm like, trust in the timing. She said something. And I was like, my faith don't have an expiration date. She was like, your faith may not have an expiration date, but that program has a deadline. And I was like, oof. Oof. Shut me up then. Let's see. Hangman Tower, Moon, Ten of Swords, Emperor, Empress, Sun, Seven, Eight of Pentacles, Nine of Cups. Since we've already seen the Seven of Pentacles, I'll go with the Eight of Pentacles. And then we'll just see what's up. Yeah, and it's just I don't know, the timing of everything is so interesting because I signed up for this program that it's a professional career counseling program, and they give you all kinds of I was signed up for it as part of my severance package. And they have all kinds of information and webinars and resources. And I did the whole thing, and then like I never heard from the coach I was partnered with or whatever. And then all of a sudden, she's reaching out to me while I'm in Maine. And I'm like, I'm on vacation. Like, I'll get back to you when I get back. And she's like, okay, that's cool. And so we actually, what day was that? It might have been the 8th. No, I think it was the 9th because it wouldn't have been. No, it was Tuesday. It was the 10th. So it was the day after. Um, my buddy was like, hey, like, what are you doing? What are you like, what's your plans? And he was like, someone's going to reach out with some more information. I was like, okay. Um, so it was like, again, it was like a lot of stuff happening at about the same time. And I'm just like, whoa, this lady is extending me in the program and now is like wanting to be an active part and meeting weekly for a few weeks until I go and just put all this information and knowledge to use. And then like there's this opportunity and also like there's like grad school. And I'm like, all of a sudden everything wants to move at once. And now I have to be the one. See, that's the that's the one thing about putting out eggs or putting out baskets. That's the one thing about setting out baskets for the universe to place eggs into, that it's like sometimes I do it to try to avoid making a decision. Sometimes I do it just for the sake of being open and receptive. Sometimes it's to avoid a decision. And then it's like when multiple fronts start to move at once, it's like, okay, well, now you got to choose. And I didn't necessarily have to choose. But again, for them being in the situation that they're in, and for me having the clarity that I now have, it doesn't make sense for me to continue to entertain something when I know that it's not what I want. I don't know. I've been learned too good and I've invested too much to just keep going about life that way. Even with the glittery promise of more. It was like, ooh, more things that I don't want. Yes, my house is going to be full of stuff that I don't want. And I'm not a void filler type of person. If there's a void, I can allow for there to be a void. Uh, you know. So, anyway. Anyway. It was just the timing of everything sort of like happening and lining up. And maybe it's also because I moved, right? Also because Eve is amazing, and when I got to spend time with her for a few days, it just jump started all of my whatever, all of the background energetic things that create uh, unseen momentum, subtle momentum that precipitates things materially, all that good stuff. But it was at the end of last month, so it was a few weeks ago. Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, I went and toured. Maybe 2 weeks ago today, because I believe it was a Thursday. I'm pretty sure it was a Thursday. 2 weeks ago today, um, I went and I toured one of the buildings on campus. And then after that, and then after the trip, it's like everything started moving. So it's almost like a game of red light, green light. And when I made that trip over to the building and to see Eve or spend time with Eve on her birthday, it was like I was like green light and everything started to move. And then, you turn around and you're like, oh, like, I don't want you to move, don't want you to move. The rest of it can. And that's almost like a Queen of Swords energy. I mean, it's more so the Queen of Swords in the way that, like, she'll hold the sword up and hold her hand out, like, welcoming, telling someone, like, you may proceed, but also not sort of forfeiting that discernment, I guess. And I've never necessarily felt the Queen of Swords in that way before. But, like, the dynamic scene around the static image of the Queen of Swords, it's almost very that. So, You totaled your car that day? Are you serious? Oh my gosh. Well, it sounds like you're okay. So I'm glad that you're okay. I mean, you're here. I'm glad you're here. Sorry to hear about your car. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, you got some insurance and you get to get something nice. Hopefully, something good will come out of the tragedy of totaling a car. Oh, oof, well, I'm glad you're okay, and I'm sorry to hear that that happened. Um, but yeah, like now everything's moving, and because again, like I don't have to pull cards. I could just come on here and rant and ramble. It's just real card. It's a name. There's no whatever, you know. Maybe I share because I've shared so much about like where I was in my journey and the journey up to this point. Maybe I also just sort of like share an update as I'm going through this transition, as my guiding principles are changing and have changed. I don't know if it's like maybe it has semblances, if semblance is the word that I want. I'm pretty sure it's the word I want, to a post healed, whatever, or the journey after healing. But that was a lot of stuff in the beginning. It was like healing, breaking down, breaking through, overcoming my own obstacles and limitations. And I felt like at least I had, so like on my Saturn return, Saturn hit me and then retrograded and then went direct. I think it retrograded twice, or maybe it was just the once on my actual degree, but then I think it retrograded and got close. Like when it went into Pisces and then retrograded back into Aquarius. Because before it entered Pisces, I got a retrograde hit, double tap. And in one of those, it was the ways that I limit myself. And it wasn't Saturn as this external governmental or authoritative entity or system. It was like me as Saturn restricting me. And it was like, whoa. That's when I had to face a lot of those things that I didn't want to face, the things that I wanted to run away from and like just cry and fall into another dark night. I was like, no, girl, we can't go back. We can't go back. We can't do that. Remember what happened last time? And I was like, oh, had to at least try. Oh, the Emperor and the Ten of Pentacles. The Emperor and the Dynasty. But the Emperor is for the other deck. This is the Vitruvian. The Vitruvian is for the old guiding principles because it's all sepia toned. Excuse me. 2 cards just flipped over. The Shining Quarry and the Shining Flame. Knight of Pentacles, Knight of Wands energies. We have wild and fertile land with lightning in the pyre. Maybe it was like very this. Because like this wild and fertile land, and then this would be like a cleansing fire. But the land was fertile enough that it's like it would recover after the fire, and then it would burn and then like recover and burn and recover. It's almost giving me like purging. Like if someone ingests something that they're not supposed to, and you give them I forget the name of the thing that encourages like purging so that they can purge all of it out of their body before their body like soaks it up or whatever. Who was this? The Kindred, 3 of Cups. Cool. All right, I'm gonna give it a few more shuffles and then we'll get into it. We'll get into it. We'll just cut it right there. I am looking for the Hanged Man, the Tower, and the Moon, which in this deck is the Outlaw, the Tower, and the Necromancer. Bottom of the deck is the Ebony Shield, Divine Temptress. It was her. She showed up. And I don't know, when I make choices and I'm not heavily motivated by money or like salary. So that wasn't even a part of I'm as motivated by money as I need to be to survive and be comfortable. You know what I mean? But in terms of opulence or vast amount of excess, it's like, diminishing returns for me, because it's like, how much is too much? What am I going to do with all that? Anyway, the Initiate, the Hector, and the Erudite, the Fool, the Five of Swords, and the Hermit. Yeah, I try to be wise now. Again, that was the Five of Wands and whatever the other card was. The Five of Wands and the Two of Wands, which was like choosing your own battles or choosing where to invest your energy, how and why. Where, how, and why to invest, And sometimes there are certain investments that are worth pursuing and protecting. Sometimes if something is important to us and for us, it's worth competing for. Again, personal belief. I know not a lot of people believe in. I'm not a super competitive person, but I am, like, I can be stubborn and I will stand my ground. You know what I mean? But not necessarily competitive. But I think there are some things that are inherently competitive that don't have to have the stigma of competition around it, if that makes sense. Yeah, some people love money. I don't know, maybe if I ever make enough, I'll develop that fondness for money. You know what I mean? New World Order, the Demon, the Blind Seer, the Eminence, the Burdened One, the Shining Dew, Memory Keeper, Corruptor, Chariot, the Ferryman, the Emperor, the Grotesque, the Dynasty, the Journeyman, the Sharpshooter, the Politic, the Necromancer, and the Title Guard. The Moon is in between the Three of Wands, the Politic, and the Title Card, which is like perfect. The Three of Wands in this deck is Pyromancy. These are three wise men, low-key Emperor energies, pre-Emperor energies that come together in search of a prophecy. What is revealed? The Mystery card. And it's, again, behind the moon. What's interesting about that show that I've been talking about that I've watched is that it's said that prophecy can be overturned. And they say prophecy can be overturned for one, but also they say that prophecy only has as much hold over us as we believe it to have. And so I guess that introduces an interesting conundrum of how can one, maybe it's not, it's one of those things that can be complex, but it's so simple. Because at first it's like, how can one overturn their prophecy? But their belief in the prophecy is what gives the prophecy the power to almost fulfill itself. And it's like, by not believing in the prophecy, I'm like, oh, well, that was anticlimactic. But it's like, if you're actively seeking to overturn the prophecy, then does that not mean that you believe it in some way? How can you seek to overturn something that you don't believe in? Right? It's like, I guess, to a certain degree and to a certain extent, taking a path of opposition validates and affirms the opposition or the thing that we're opposed to. But if you like let it have no hold or no bearing over your life, then it won't. Just saw the Emperor. There's the Emperor. See this big Emperor energy. Between the Six of Swords and the Five of Cups. The Memory Keeper. No, the Grotesque and the Ferryman. Cool. The Haunt, Archangel of Mysteries, the Reaper, the Gardener, the Vagabond, the Angel, the Chancellor, the Contender, Archangel of Glory, the Demiurge, the Outlaw. So it's between the Demiurge and the Outlaw. That's where the Hangman is. Or between the Demiurge and the Stronghold of the Flame. The Hangman is the Outlaw. Wow, that's interesting. 3 of Wands, 4 of Wands. And the card before. So before, again, it goes from the 3 of Wands to the 4 of Wands. And then after, it's the title card with this Page of Wands that has this message. So it's almost giving me invisible ink. It's almost an energy of invisible ink. It's like you receive the paper, you receive a message, and you're like, but it's blank. Like, what? Interesting. I think I've already passed the 5 of Wands, so. The Ivory Shield, the Champion, the Shining Winds, Apocalypse, Stronghold of the Veil, the Bereaved, the Convalescent, the Lovers, the Holy See, Sacred Cinnabar, the Conservator, Bread of Life, the Empress, the Captor. Interesting. Oh. Very, very interesting. Extremely interesting. The Malaise, the Healer, the Hollow Void, the Destroyer. I'm looking for the Tower. Shining Flame, the Kindred, the Defector, the Mason, Wheel of Life, the Magus, the Keeper, the Tower, and the Golden Shield. So the Tower is in between the Keeper and the Golden Shield. The Keeper is Spirit and Petition of Spirit. Material and spiritual colliding is the Tower. Interesting. The Keeper is the Fool that has gone from magician to world, has learned and integrated everything that they need to at every point, and that re-enters the world still a fool, but a wizened fool. I heard somebody say wizened recently. I forget who it was. And I always thought it was like wizened or something. I don't know. Oh, look, 110. The Magician, or the Magus and the Wheel of Life are the cards before. So, interesting. On the left, on the cards before, we go from the Politic to the Demiurge to the Keeper. 3 of Wands, 4 of Wands, the Fool. And then on the right side, we go from the title card, the Page of Wands, the Queen of Wands. In the Wand Unknown, this is the Daughter and the Mother of Wands. Title card, Stronghold of the Flame, the Golden Shield. That's Power and Authority of Fire. I just saw Power and Authority of Fire after the Grotesque and whatever card it was. I couldn't remember the golden shield. I think I just talked about it yesterday. The grotesque, the destroyer, and the golden shield. That's what it was. Five of cups, 10 of swords, and that queen. Bottom of the deck again was that ebony shield. We'll set these here. Now I only have, I guess I have three majors: the Emperor, the Empress, and the Sun on the other side. I don't know why I've been feeling like pulling from the top recently instead of going from the bottom. The Hollow Void and the Shining Waters have come out. It's almost like there was this Hollow Void, but then the Shining Waters is like this portal to a watery realm that, like a bunch of water, just floods in. Oh, that's interesting because I don't know. I've been feeling a little dry since Gemini season, maybe. Like I haven't cried. I haven't felt like crying. I have cried a few times. The tear duct dam has been bursting at the seams. So I've had like two dreams that I woke up like crying from, and I was like, oh, they managed to pull tears in my sleep. I was left vulnerable, but I have cried since then. I had to cry, good cry. I've released tears since then. I don't know. I didn't feel like crying for a while. And I don't know. Now I feel like I'm getting back to my Piscean self. I don't know. New Moon Virgo like pulled it out of me, you know. But that's why that's interesting. Cool. We'll just, since the cards are ready, I'm ready. I'm looking for the Emperor, the Empress, and the Warrior. The Warrior is the Sun. The Defector, the Giver, the Healer, Archangel of Healing, the Seeker, the Rogue, Holy Grail, the Chariot, the Dark Horse, the Scarlet Shield, the Initiate, the Herald of the Winds, the Dynasty, Hallowed Flame, the Chancellor, the Force, the Vagabond, the Journeyman, the Lovers, the Champion, the Bereaved, the Ivory Shield, the Convalescent, the title card, the Tension, the Mason, the Quester, Herald of the Flame, the Outlaw, the Golden Shield, and the Keeper. This is interesting. So the Outlaw, and the Herald of the Flame. I didn't even catch that. Herald of the Flame, the Outlaw, the Golden Shield, and the Keeper. All four of these cards are together, and they literally came out on the other side. The Herald of the Flame is the Stronghold of the Flame. You can see the little letter there. And the title card was like way up here. It's like 4 cards away. Oh, these two were together. The Herald of the Flame came out after the Outlaw, but here the Herald of the Flame is before the Outlaw. Under the Herald of the Flame is the Golden Shield, and then on the opposite side of the tower from the Golden Shield is the Keeper. Interesting. So it's like do. If that made any sense. Oof, I picked the deck up in reverse. The Pugilist, the Conservator, the Politic, the Destroyer, Archangel of Mysteries, Archangel Commander, the Angel, the Shining Quarry, the Empress. So the Empress is in between the Shining Quarry, Knight of Pentacles, and the Hector. I think we saw that 5 of Swords. Maybe, I don't remember. I don't remember. Excuse me. The The sharpshooter, the memory keeper, the joyous one, apocalypse, bread of life, the kindred, the discerning one, the contender, new world order, the captor, the burdened one, the necromancer, the erudite. The necromancer and the erudite are together. Pisces. Oh, look. Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo. 3 mutable energies back to back. Interesting. Where's Gemini? Gemini is literally right here. So there's New World Order. The fixed signs of Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, they all have wings in the New World Order. In some ways, the world card, they're given wings. And it's interesting because then, after that, minor arcana, Jupiter in Gemini opposing Saturn and Sagittarius with the 9 of Swords and the 10 of Wands. And then major arcana, Pisces and Virgo with the necromancer and the erudite. So again, it's interesting that we go from the 4 cardinal sign, or from the 4 fixed signs, to having 4 mutable energies come out right after that. And it's New World Order. Ooh. The Haunt, the Tower, the Eminence. So the Tower over here is in between the 9 of Swords and the 9 of Pentacles. Interesting. Feels accurate. That's what the Tower was for in the past, because there was a lot of 9 swords around that 9 of Pentacles energy. The Haunt and the Eminence. Interesting. The Reaper, the Shining Flame, the Joined One, the Blind Seer, the Priestess, the Magus, the Demon, the Herald of the Waters, Archangel of Glory, Sacred Word, the Demiurge, the Warrior, and the Emperor, and the Ebony Shield. The Ebony Shield, again, was at the bottom of this deck. The Divine Temptress. Now she sits in the halls of the Sanctum of Treasure. Bottom of the deck is the Shining Winds, right? The Shining Gale, sorry. Knight of Swords. So many knights. So they're connected. The Sun and the Emperor. Sacred Word. Ace of Swords. Oh, that's the Ace of Swords. That's the one that was turn left. And then I had to... There was an opportunity to turn left, but... And I was telling my mom that it's interesting that because of that, reading turn left has come to mean something completely different. Before, turning left was an action that was done. Whoa. Wow. So before, turning left was an action that was done out of a reservation or fear of, I don't know, forming connections. The original context of turning left was my freshman year. I was of school, college, university. I was reclusive and committed to my isolation in a lot of ways. And one day my RA was like, "Hey, we're having a floor meeting." And I was like, "Do I have to go?" And he was like, "Yeah, everyone has to go." And so I couldn't get out of it. So he came, I like put my flip flops on or whatever. I followed the group downstairs to wherever we were having the meeting, and I was lagging in the back. I wasn't leading the pack in those days. And so we were going down this hall. At the end of the hall was the room that we were going to have the meeting in, but there was an I. If you imagine a capital letter I, there's like 2 long hallways and then this shorter hallway that sort of bridges these 2 long hallways. And I was lagging behind and I turned left. So I took the bridge and made a left and then another left, and I took the back way back up to my room. And as I was moving away, I heard him go, "Where's Patrick?" Or like, "Where did Patrick go?" Patrick was gone. He was committed. And, to his isolation and his whatever at that point. That's what turning left originally was. It was like avoiding a destination or fear of reaching a certain, like, again, very the Nine of Swords and the Nine of Pentacles. Very much that energy that was around the tower. That's what had to fall. And then when I became an RA, there were people on my floor that same year that helped me adjust to Purdue and that made me feel like I had a place and try as hard as I could to not sort of like engage with them or whatever. Like, I couldn't help myself. There's always been at least one person who was able to slip right through all my defenses, and I'm thankful for that because at least I'll have one friend, you know what I mean? While I'm committed to my misery, or while I was committed to my misery, I had at least one friend, if not a few. But when I became an RA, I wanted to, part of the reason why I did it was I wanted to help someone else transition that may have been having difficulty transitioning to life on campus. And I was able to do that. And with one of my residents, I told him the story of me turning left. Because I would invite what my RA did for me, I did for him. And I told him when I was in your position, I turned left. Don't turn left. And he didn't turn left. And he ended up really like blossoming on campus. And it's interesting that I guess, like, I'm sure I've realized how that, like, that dynamic. Um, I'm just glad that he made a choice that I didn't make. There, of course, there were some times when he was like, "Oh, I don't know, Pat, I can't." I was like, "Okay," but anyway, that's what turn left like used to mean. And then through that last video and this sacred, cinnabar, sacred word, it came to mean something different. And then 3 days later, it was like turning left was the shortcut. Turning left got us to our destination quicker. And on a day where I did a lot of dashing and hoping and praying that there would be no delays because the schedule was a little tight. But it's interesting now because, again, I was like, well, if it was up to me, like, I don't think I would have turned left. And then this opportunity came out of left field and it was amazing, but I'm not taking it. Because, again, as amazing as it is, and as much as I know, I could like grow, and as well as I know, I truly genuinely believe it's almost like an opportunity of a lifetime, but it's a life that I don't want to live. So, you know. Anyway, that's what turning left originally meant. Speaking of like other people's synchronicities, or how do I, maybe I'll do it like this. So the demiurge, the warrior, and the emperor, master of the mystic light and commander of intellections. Oh, look, 4. 4, 19, 4. 19 is a 10 is a 1. We saw the magus with the will of life together. Those are the ones, and then here's the last one. What's interesting is over here, on the other side of the stronghold of the flame, it's the demiurge with the outlaw. Now the demiurge is next to the warrior. And in the warrior, you could say or in the outlaw, you could say there's an eye of the moon and the eye of the sun. And the sun is the warrior. So it's interesting how that sort of played out. From the outlaw to the warrior. Cool. And then the stronghold of the flame would be this emperor. And for the sake of where Patrick was when the guiding principle was more of the moon, the hanged man, and the tower, Patrick being an emperor in his own life is definitely title card energy. I would have never seen or expected that I would be where I am, making the choices that I'm making and navigating how I am. So yeah, what's interesting is, oh, they didn't come out. We had those four cards together, and then the demiurge is here. So that's, we didn't see the keeper. Yeah, we did see the keeper because it was it with the tower? No, that was after. It was after the four mutable signs. Where was it? Not the politic and the destroyer. There it is. The keeper, the golden shield, the outlaw, and the herald of the flame. Now we see the demiurge. The only card is that through. Anyway. Before and after the emperor, we have the warrior and the sanctum of treasures. The warrior, the emperor, and the ebony shield. Again, the ebony shield was the bottom of the deck over here. So again, it fits that natural progression energy. There's something about it that feels like a natural progression, but also it's like a natural progression that if there's a path that leads to a portal, it's kind of like that. So technically, it's still on the path because the path goes through the portal. But if you look at it geographically, there is a certain amount of distance that would be unaccounted for. It's like the portal consumes that distance. Interesting. Now, this is how many cards I had left in the Vitruvian, or in the Revelations. This is how many cards I had left in the Vitruvian. So cool. I want to take a picture of this for self-reference. For reference. For reference. For reference. There we go. Ooh, that's a lot of distance. Cool. Now I wanted to, for where these bridge and connect, Ten of Swords. I'll do the Ten of Swords and the Nine of Cups. The question is, am I going to do this as it is, or am I going to reshuffle? I think I'll do it as it is. So, as the point of connection, as the bridge between these two, I guess as the distance that the portal ate. I don't know. I'm going to look through the rest of the cards first from the bottom. So here I'm looking for the Ten of Swords because it was the minor guiding principle of the other. The Ten of Swords isn't here, but the Wish Granted is. The Nine of Cups is here. The guiding principle, minor guiding principle, is still there. I don't think I've seen the Destroyer when I was looking through there. And over here, I'm looking for the Wish Granted. The Wish Granted is here. The Wish Granted in both. Hold up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Wish Granted is the seventh card here from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. The Wish Granted is the third card from the bottom here. So it's almost like it's being pushed to the. On both of these, the Wish Granted still lies beyond the guiding principle, even though it's a part of the guiding principle here. But again, something anyway, it's fine. I don't have to get all the way into it. I could, but interesting. Oh, ooh, okay. So, Moon in Aquarius, Jupiter in Pisces, Archangel of Healing. The wish granted is in between the Seven of Swords and the Archangel of Healing here as the bridge from the old to the new. Before the Archangel of Healing is the High Priestess and the Warrior. On the other side of the Warrior is Holy Water, that Ace of Cups. So again, because the High Priestess is with this Warrior, it's almost clarifying that whole like how it went from the Demiurge and the Outlaw to the Demiurge and the Warrior. And that like the title card being like the Warrior, the Emperor, how it's like a space that I'd be in that I'd never necessarily see myself. I didn't have the bandwidth to see myself where I am now, back where I was then, when that guiding principle was a lot more active. Um, and again, it's behind the High Priestess, so I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised when it came out. And honestly, I was the type of person where it wouldn't have been helpful or beneficial. When I was where I was, there was no amount of, like, I'm stubborn AF. And I couldn't see anything, and I didn't dare dream of anything beyond the misery that I saw for myself. And so to have someone else there, like, oh yeah, like you could do this or you could do that, or I see it for you, or like you're never given more than you can handle or more than you can bear. Like, oh, well, I know all of these other people with like disabilities and they're doing amazing things. And I'm like, okay, well, they're not me. Until I reached the point where I was ready. Until I was made ready. And until I reached the depth of despair, a depth so deep I knew I'd never want to go back. Uh, then I was ready. I was ready for anything at that point. You know what I mean? I was ready for a lot. But maybe it also makes sense that the future guiding principle was in the cards that I had yet to uh, reach from the past, but the past guiding principle is within the cards that I've already seen for the present. Like it's fitting, right? Because it's not in the future anymore. I'm looking for the Destroyer, the Ten of Swords. Oh, there's the politic. I knew I had seen it. That Three of Wands. The only card that's not here now is the title card. The Destroyer is in between the politic and the Archangel of Mysteries, angel who illuminates the shadow. And again, last time we saw oh my gosh, and it's the moon. Oop. So every card except the title card is here. Or we've seen it. Four of the cards are within here. The bottom four are four. Yeah. The Demiurge, no, because the Demiurge is here. So the Page of Wands, Queen of Wands, the Keeper, it's in here. So before it was the Politic, the Necromancer, and the title card. Again, now it's the Politic, the Destroyer, and the Archangel of Mysteries. This is the angel who illuminates shadow. And then literally the moon with the title card. That's the angel who illuminated this mystery. Wow. Cool. And it was a path. Oh, wow. This is Sun in Aries, sextile Sun in Gemini as well. Um, for me, my South Node was in Gemini. I'm trying to think of the degrees. I'm pretty sure it does. My South Node is in Gemini, and it sextiles my Venus in Aries. Venus is in my 12th house. Venus in my life. There's a reason why the Ace of Cups was before the warrior attached to that high priestess that was hidden behind this title card. Of things that, like, I would have potentially completely derailed myself. Had I known, I feel like even if I could see me, there's a part of me that may be relieved if I could see me now, then. But I think there's also a part of me that would have been like really freaked out because there were so many things like I couldn't even imagine myself doing. And like the threat of graduation was enough to send me down a dark spiral, you know? So it would have been, I don't know, it's interesting. Cause again, like I don't think I would have been brave enough to even try to imagine myself being where I am because it would have seemed so impossible. It would have seemed like a dream that I knew would never come true. And because I didn't believe the dream could be true, it would be a nightmare. This is so interesting. The Archangel of Healing with the Rogue. I feel like, with as stubborn as Patrick is, God, Spirit, the Divine, the Universe knows me. And so, because the Divine knows me, the Divine knows how to navigate me. And it feels like it was all this healing that was like taking place. Some of it I was like consciously aware of. I feel like some of it I necessarily wasn't as much. And also, too, it almost speaks to the ways that I'm learning to apply things that I've learned in the past or lessons that I've learned in the past. Like my brain works in metaphor. And even when I'm learning, like as I've been learning through school, there are certain times when I've been able to see parallels between things that are seemingly disparate, but because I could see the parallel, it made learning those things like easier. Because it's like, oh, well, it's like this, and this is something that I've already learned. So now, instead of going into something with like no knowledge at all, I kind of have a basis to build upon. And then as I learn more about this thing specifically, I can see all the ways in which it doesn't, and all the ways in which it differs from the comparison. Um, but yeah, it's almost like this person is like sleeping, and as they're asleep, these swords are like being pulled out of them, almost like the Ten of Swords, but it's only seven of them. And that's what, honestly, that's what it has taken. As I was literally just talking about, like, I don't know if I could see, I don't know that if I saw myself now, then how helpful or beneficial it would have been. Maybe this is a confirmation of, like, yeah, it would have freaked you out. You would have spiraled because you would have, I would have gotten into the, well, like, how am I doing this? And how am I doing that? And how am I doing any of these other things? It's like I would have spiraled out on the details of how I'm doing what I'm doing because then I knew, like, I didn't believe I was capable. Some of the things I wasn't because that was before I had my cataract surgery. You know what I mean? So it was like to get me to this Nine of Cups, to get me to the things that I truly, genuinely desire in my life and not what I had sacrificed because of the despair that I was buying into, but also to lead me to the minor part of this guiding principle there were some little like sneaky healing things that sort of had to happen. Or not only sneaky healing things, but speaking like going back to what I said, my personal sort of belief is earlier about how sometimes the path that has more resistance up front, to me, I felt I've been like my intuition discernment has told me that that was the path. It never felt like it was for me to quit or walk away after I had made that commitment to healing, facing, addressing everything, because I knew what I couldn't go back to. And so it's like, again, from a certain way, I feel like I could be like, oh, well, that was sneaky. That was underhanded. I didn't know that when I was going through this, then blah, 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 whatever. But again, title card, it wasn't for me to know, because then I would have spiraled out, focusing more on the things that weren't necessarily relevant. It's like some of this stuff, some of where I am now is a testament to and a benefit of the work I've done. It isn't necessarily central to the work itself. Almost like because I did this, now I'm able to do that. And so if I look at all the things that I will be able to do, or if I could have looked at all the things that I am able to do, just like traveling by myself, going through an airport by myself. Like one time, where did I fly to? It was before I had my cataract surgery. I don't remember where I was. I was in the airport and I was going to meet my buddy, the one who lives in the UK now. And like I couldn't see because everything was like so bright and so weird. It was like I was sensitive. I went from being like night blind to white blind towards the end, and I was just like really sensitive. There wasn't enough contrast for me to see in the airport, and it was like high noon, so natural sunlight was coming in and making everything even brighter, and it was stressful. I think I took a shuttle. I think that's what happened. I think one of the times I went to meet him in Indiana, I took a shuttle to the airport and he picked me up from the airport. And he was like, well, look at the map. Like, look on Google Maps. I'm like, it was not helping. It was a nightmare. And because of that, like, if I would have imagined myself like being in an airport anywhere, like navigating by myself, I would have freaked out because as far as I knew then, it was like impossible. It was like, how am I doing? Like, again, and that freak out would have shut me down. And it's like, well, that's not like that's something that happens as a result. And then again, for me, that's the importance of the title card. That's why, and the Ivory Shield was here somewhere. The Queen of Cups, my BTFU, she came out with the Seven of Pentacles. The BTFU, STFU, mind your business queen. Because sometimes, again, when we get more information than we have the ability to process, we can sort of freak out and take it in a way that is completely different than the context it's going to have as it arises naturally in its sequence of events, and not trying to peer through, gaze forward into some future and seeing something that's like, oh my gosh, you know? So, yeah, anyway, I feel like, I don't know. Maybe most of it was in the beginning, or I don't know. I feel like I spend so much time like recapping my journey up until this point, you know? It's almost like, for some shows, I feel like kind of mostly anime, but maybe for some other shows, if there's a break in between the season, and then they'll run a few episodes that like catches you up on the story thus far, but it's airing in the slot of like the new season. So you're hoping to see something new, but it's more like recap. Like, just in case you forgot, this happened in season 2, that happened in season 4, this other thing happened in season 7. And more often than not, when they're reminding you of things that happened in previous seasons, it's because there's going to be a character that returns, a plot device that returns, or it's going to pick up on something that started back then. Right? They're not telling you to like waste time. Cool. And again, for me, I know me. I know how stubborn AF I can be and stuff like that. So I can not only stubborn AF, I know how stuck I was. And I know how dark it was for me. And I know the pain of dreaming. Uh, the pain that dreaming was for me then. And so I can understand that these parts of my journey were necessary. The parts that I didn't know what was happening, but I had to just whatever, the parts where I wanted to quit crying, cry, quit, and walk away. But it was like, just show up, I'll show up and try. This is interesting. Again, just for wow. So also, I guess one thing that's interesting is when I made the community post, I put Empress/Emperor dash the sun, but here the Emperor and the Sun are connected, and it's not like it's Sun and Aries. Sun in Aries is right here, the politic, the Three of Wands, and that's on that gateway of resurrection. Interesting. Cool. I am going to end this by doing an I Ching. I'll do the card after as the top trigram and the card before as the bottom trigram, and I'm going to look around the minor principles. So it'll be the Seven of Swords on top of Archangel of Healing, and then the Archangel of Mysteries on top of the politic. And I believe, actually, I may not. Give me one moment so I can grab my iPad that I know has the book of maps on it. Has the book of maps on it. Has the book of maps on it. Ooh, that was a stretch. Has the book of maps on it. Has the book of maps on it. Has the book of maps on it. Cool. I'm going to read the top one first and the bottom one second. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Integrating I Ching. There we go. So, where's the correspondence tables? Here we go. Maybe. Yes. So, this is going to be the Heaven over Water. Heaven over Water is the first hexagram. The second hexagram is going to be Earth over Fire. Heaven over Water and Earth over Fire. So Heaven over Water is I Ching number 6, conflict. as the guiding principle of the past. Again, checks out. Earth over water, no, fire. Earth over fire is I Ching number 36, darken the light. So what number was the first one? I already forgot. 6. 6 and 36, a difference of 30. Interesting. 30 is the hanged man. Interesting. Oh, here it is. Conflict, entitlement, social conflicts, ominous. You may not be the one perpetuating the matter that is giving to the okay, I'm gonna start again. Social conflicts, ominous. You may not be the one perpetuating the matter that is giving rise to the contention or conflict, but you will likely suffer minor injuries in being criticized or spoken out against. Moving apart gives rise to tension. Tension gives rise to conflict. You are in the right, and yet you run into opposition. There is a character involved in the matter, a cunning, determined character that is quite quarrelsome. Reflect on your own sense of entitlement to pinpoint the source of the conflict. Do not undertake hazardous enterprises. I could not undertake hazardous enterprises. As soon as I approached a hazardous enterprise, I would collapse and fall apart and spiral into a days, if not weeks, if not at least a month long depression. Hazardous enterprises included things like dreaming of being happy, getting a little too close to people, a little too comfortable, too close to graduation, too close to the real world outside of the comfort that I had found. And it's interesting, it mentions a cunning character, a cunning and quarrelsome character, when again, the basis of this I Ching, that cunning, quarrelsome character is the Archangel of Healing. Because it's something that I was resistant to, right? Cue me early 2020 talking about, I feel like whenever the energy of Archangel Michael comes up, it's like, you need to do this or you need to be doing that. And I'm like, no. There are some energies I feel that it's like, if I were empowered at that point, it would have been like less whatever, you know? But I was still working to where I am now. Now I'm like, okay, if something has to be done, I guess we're doing it. Let's go. The quicker I get it done, the quicker I can get back to doing the nothing that I'm doing. Wow. Cunning and quarrelsome. But again, like I've had so many friends who supported me who were like, oh, well, you could do this and you can do that. And before I was in a space to receive it or accept it, it was contentious because it conflicted with the dire self worldview that I held. They were competing. It was like competing information. I can't be a miserable, well, I can't be dedicated to my misery and do nothing, but at the same time be so like, whatever. Darkening of the light. The sun has descended down into the belly of the earth, and the warrior is here, which is the sun. It is a time of transitions. One will come to an end while another is ascending. Use the darkness to your advantage. Wait until the darkness has set in completely before you start the uprising. Use darkness to veil your light. Begin the resistance of light under the veil of darkness. Do not compel the change. Let the time of transition take place in due course. Do not draw attention to your light, but do not let that inner light extinguish. A push for change is in the air, but the time for change has not yet come. So again, I feel like that's like the title card. That was like the things that I couldn't see. An angel who illuminates the shadows. I don't know. That feels relevant in some way. I don't know. Darkening the light. Or lightening the dark. Anyway. That's what I got. I'm gonna get final cards, of course. I don't know. Uh, Again, it's just like it's a different phase, a different part. I know that my journey is my journey because I am who I am. And honestly, I don't wish my path upon anyone, especially if you're not me, just because I don't know, I gotta, because I am how I am, sometimes things can be a little whatever. And because I am how I am, I need what I need to get where I'm going in the ways that I need them. And so just because my intuition and discernment tells me that if I'm guided to a certain challenge, that it's for me to embrace the challenge and rise to the challenge and not to quit, give up, walk away. It doesn't mean that your path may not be one of when you come upon challenge because you are who you are and because you've been through what you've been through. Maybe your path is to like disengage or to not take part in it. You know, maybe it doesn't have anything to teach you in any way that is helpful. And so again, just because I say whatever I say about my especially about my path and journey, but just in general with everything I say, right? Because it's all through the lens of me, and I'm not infallible. Again, I can't love to learn, but hate being wrong because I can't learn or grow if I ever know if I can't learn or grow if I already know everything. There you go. I was gonna say I can't learn or grow if I ever know everything. I mean, which I guess is I don't know. As long as that knowledge of everything doesn't transcend time and space, then like yeah, you know. New World Order and the Archangel Commander. There's that guy. And also, nope, he's not at the bottom of the deck anymore. But we see the sword, the sword, the sigil, and the shield from the sacred word on that Archangel Commander. Cool. But again, that's why I feel like my guiding principle has changed. I feel like this opportunity may have aligned more with the guiding principle of old. And that's not the way that I'm navigating anymore. It's not the way that I feel led to navigate anymore. Um, and again, I don't know it. I'm so at peace with my choice and decision, but I can just recognize, and maybe I can just hold appreciation for that. Oh, I almost felt the emotion. I did feel the emotion. Do I feel like crying today? Sure. Live? No. I've cried enough live. You know what I mean? Like if it comes up naturally, then yeah, sure, whatever. Um, but I don't know, like just through conversations, just through me being me, and it was so weirdly validating. I guess the conversation today, because she was like, like the potential that I see in you, or me knowing that if you were given the right opportunities, you would be extremely capable and sitting down to create a timeline and a plan for that to happen. She was like, I haven't necessarily seen that potential in anyone else that I've talked to. Um, because again, like there were two different roles. Even when I went to for my first job, I qualified for two different roles and I chose the one that I thought would be more challenging. Did I regret it at points? For sure. But again, I wouldn't have been stressed in the ways that I was had that happened. Um, and I don't know, it was just something about the work culture and being appreciated that I would have loved, but I just know it's not. There's the ivory shield. There she is. I just know it's not my path journey. not anymore, or not there. The environment and the recognition, yes, but the industry, the role. There's something more I want to experience. Oh, look, Ace of Cups and the Warrior. Now at the cut, I'm pretty sure they were literally together. Yeah, it was Holy Water, the Warrior, and then the Priestess. Ace of Cups, the Sun, and the High Priestess. Ooh, cool. Oh, and he's come back out. The Shining Quarry, wild and fertile land, with the Chancellor, Angel of Justice. Wow, interesting. This is Virgo Libra. Mutable Earth, Virgo, the Chancellor, Libra. I don't know if something's happening in this specific season. I don't know. Bottom of the deck is the Magus, the Magician. The Magus was actually, it was at the bottom of the side that I had looked at. The bottom of the cards I hadn't reached in this deck was the Ebony Shield. The bottom of the cards that I had reached or that I had looked at was the Magus. And this is Mercury, ruler of Virgo. Mercury just entered Virgo. Cool. It's my pace. And it's the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is the slower of the knights. And again, it's like this opportunity could have catapulted me. Really, and honestly, it has the energy of like, it's kind of once in a lifetime, but it's not a life I want to live, you know? And so it's like, yeah, slow and steady. That's your pace, buddy. Take the scenic route. And I'm taking the scenic route again because there are things that I want to experience. So I don't know if any of this, I don't know. It's me sharing my journey and this time of transition. And again, it's so, the guiding principles are so different than what they used to be. I was a tower chaser. I don't feel like I have to chase towers anymore. I needed to, you could, because I was deep in it. I was deep in it. So there were many, many towers that had to fall. I don't know. I'm sure I will continue to be a benefit or service in some way. Maybe more peripheral. I, of course, in some ways, more intentional. But I don't know. It's time for me to do the things for me, you know? Cool. And it's so, I was literally just talking about that. And I was like, man, like this guy recommended me and like they're in a space of need and they like value me. Like I really, like, I don't want to, I was like, I want to do this for him. I want to support. And it's a mission, it's an environment, it's a company that I would love to support. But just because I don't do it doesn't mean that they won't find the right person, you know? And I pray that they do. And they found them quick. All right, final card, Revelations. And then it's time for a Dunkin' Run or something. I don't know. We'll see. The Mason. This is Mars in Capricorn. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. I don't know. I could, you know what? We ain't even got to go there today. We're not going there today. Bottom of the deck is the Tension, which is Jupiter in Capricorn. Mars conjunct Jupiter in Capricorn. This is interesting because I think the title card, I think it was the Tension, the Mason, the title card. I remember when I was looking through this for the major guiding principles, I saw the Two of Pentacles, Three of Pentacles, and then another card. And that third card was like ding, ding, ding. I can't remember what it was. I think it was the title card, though. What I love about this Three of Pentacles is that it's like the building is finished. The work is complete. or it's like the finishing touches are being put on. I think this is labor conquers all in Latin, and like this on this outer circle, labor conquers all. And it's like when the work works for us. It's also interesting because Jupiter and Capricorn, it feels like the Reaper and the Hierophant are under these, Taurus and Scorpio. Um, it feels like Mars and Capricorn. It's a very similar energy to when Mars conjuncted Uranus and Taurus. And it was like Mars is helping give Uranus a boost as it's like breaking up things on the earth that need to be broken up. It's like plowing the field so it can be fertile once again, fertile. And it's like Mars is breaking waves in Capricorn so that Jupiter can have an easier time expanding in the domain of Saturn. And Mars is an energy I feel like that aligns with expansive Jupiter so easily and so naturally. But Mars has the favor of Saturn. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. I think there's something also about like this tension breaking too. And I guess the frayed ropes and the tension. I think I smell Chino. Let's see. He might be right outside this door. He may not be. Chino. I don't know. I thought I just got a whiff of Chino for a second. But I would have heard him walk by. Anyway, it's fine. It's like the tension is breaking, the tension is easing. And maybe while the tension was active, there were things that were being completed. But it's like now that this is complete or nearing completion, it's time to start relocating resources from wherever they were over to here as the line is fraying. Cool. So, whatever that looks like. And then the Hector is here, of course. I don't know. The Hector is probably. I feel like, honestly, the Hector, that Five of Swords, could be some of like what I feel like when I have to be mean or whatever. Excuse me. Like before I fully settled in my decision, and again, it's only been a few days and it came out of nowhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, out of left field. Uh, there was a part of me that like I like really, really, really want to be there to support my friend and this company and this vision and be in this environment. But again, it's just like I know that it's not for me. And that feels a little almost harsh. Um, but at the same time, there are plenty of capable people. You know, I'm not the only person who can go in and do whatever. And ultimately, if I know and can recognize it's not my journey, then it's not my role to fill. Like, who's to say that there isn't someone else who could, whatever, anyway. All right. I'll see y'all. I'll catch y'all next time. I don't know what things are going to look like going forward. It feels like last night, today was a major milestone in that conversation of like, being like, you know what? I appreciate it, but I'm going to continue on this path. I'm going to see my transition through because that's what I really want. So I don't know. I got to go to the bathroom. Bye. Thanks, Bloomer Rose, for stopping by. I hope you all have an amazing whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path during what you find. And I hope you a clarity on your why or your guiding principle or whatever is sort of like an overarching framework that you kind of sort of work in. And I hope you see an alignment between that and like the plan of the divine.